Trump thinks he can do to the Islamic Republic what he did to Venezuela. He's mistaken. Both men are power drunk. Both believe they are masters of the universe.
Whatever side you're on, you have to see this journalist, David Hearst, discuss how Donald Trump and America and Israel are doomed, God forbid, if there is a war with Iran. Watch this clip, we'll watch it together, submit a comment because I want to see what you think, and we'll talk about it after the clip.
Trump still thinks he is Mr. Big. He bullied NATO into a framework for a future deal over Greenland, which according to one report, later vigorously denied, had Denmark cede sovereignty over the areas in which the US bases would be built. He's got Europe to pay for more of its own defense. He seized President Nicolas Maduro, and now the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio brags that Venezuela will submit him a monthly budget. He twisted the arm of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu into stopping the war in Gaza. That is what Trump thinks he has achieved. And now he's assembled an armada of ships and bombers to strike Iran for the second time in a year. Trump thinks he can do to the Islamic Republic what he did to Venezuela. He's mistaken, but he believes it. His envoy, Steve Witkoff, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, have told one regional power what Trump thinks he can do to and with Iran. A quick but limited airstrike which decapitates the regime but leaves it in place. This is followed by a deal in which Iran surrenders both the nuclear program and its oil to the US, in return for which Trump will kindly allow Boeing back in. There are other variants circulating, but the core points of the plan are the same: speed, extreme violence, and submission. Trump is also convinced that now is the time to strike. He thinks the Islamic Republic has been weakened, both by the airstrikes he ordered last year and a major wave of national unrest, which was suppressed only at the cost of thousands of lives. Trump has two sources of information: his own intelligence assessments, which, as we know from Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, you name it, have 100% track record of being wrong, and also from the Israelis. But they have a different agenda. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants regime change, not a token or limited round of airstrikes. He has said for some time that Hamas and Hezbollah function as the aircraft carriers for Iran. Both men are power drunk. Both believe they are masters of the universe. Their pilots operate off real-time information, almost to the minute, on where targets can be located and eliminated. So they have long since stopped thinking there are any constraints on what they can do. Last year, the Israeli Air Force showed it is no longer constrained. Before the kickoff to the third Gulf War, it is worth stating a very obvious fact: Iran is not Venezuela. Venezuela had no regional cards to play when Maduro was seized. Iran abounds in them. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is not just head of state, commander-in-chief of its armed forces, its supreme political and religious authority. He is also the spiritual leader of tens of millions of Shia Muslims around the world, including millions of the 36 million Shia who live in the Middle East. Ayatollah Khamenei also has direct control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And that's the second major difference from Venezuela. Whereas a small Delta force armed with a blowtorch was enough to seize Maduro, a very different prospect awaits any invader who tries to neutralize the IRGC, a force as large as the US Marine Corps. The IRGC can count on 150,000 ground troops, 20,000 naval personnel, 15,000 strong air force, plus the Basij militia. It can block the Straits of Hormuz all on its own. It has the naval mines, fast attack boats and drones to do it. This strait is considered a maritime choke point. 20 million barrels of crude oil, condensates and refined petroleum products pass each day through a stretch of water 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest. Through them too goes 22% of the world's trade in liquefied natural gas. The IRGC is not just a paramilitary police force, army, navy and air force rolled into one. It's also an economic powerhouse. It's Iran's international banking system, including cryptocurrency mining, and gold trading to circumvent international banking controls. It controls about 50% of Iran's oil exports. It manages a fleet of ghost tankers. Trump's plan to seize or redirect Iran's oil flow would have geostrategic implications. It would directly impact China, which has bought in recent years about 90% of Iran's crude oil and condensate. Iranian crude accounted for around 14% of China's total seaborne oil imports, making Iran a more important supplier than Venezuela. So what does Rubio think would happen the day after a US strike? Does he imagine that the IRGC, the owner of an elaborate global infrastructure to circumvent international sanctions, would submit Iran's annual budget to the US Treasury for approval? If so, he is dreaming. But the biggest difference with Venezuela is that Iran would think and react very differently than it has in the past if attacked again. It would interpret Trump's action not as a rap over the knuckles, but as an existential attack on the Islamic Republic itself. This means its response would be unconstrained by attempts to grade or to limit the war that would follow. This means no more choreographed sending of messages. 5 days after Trump ordered the assassination of Iran's chief military strategist, General Qasem Soleimani, in his first term as president, Iran launched 12 missiles at the Al-Assad air base in Iraq, as well as another air base in Erbil that the US military were using. But to limit casualties, it warned the Iraqi government first. It would not do that this time. Its senior diplomats have already said its response would be asymmetric, and it would regard Israel's regional partners, such as the United Arab Emirates or Azerbaijan, as particular targets. A war like this would be impossible to limit geographically. Iran has a reach which extends from the Caucasus to Yemen, from Lebanon to Afghanistan. The axis of resistance may have been dented by the loss of Syria, but its core components remain in place in Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen. A third Gulf War is in Trump's and Netanyahu's power to start, but it would be in neither man's power to stop. The concern of Trump's Gulf allies is massive. Talks between Iran and the US were held in Iran on Friday, and they've been stuttering on and off for the last 3 days. They were scheduled to be held in Istanbul, and the initial plan by Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan was an international forum of foreign ministers. The idea was to prevent negotiation becoming an arm wrestling match between Trump and Khamenei. However, the Supreme Leader objected and just wanted talks with the US and only on the nuclear enrichment issue. The US side then objected and threatened to pull out. This sparked a huge regional lobbying effort involving at least 9 different countries. The phones must have been ringing in the Oval Office. Iranian acceptance of the talks is also heavily caveated. As ever, Iran intends the meeting in Oman to be just the start of a long, protracted process. Trump has no patience for negotiations. For him, it's take it or leave it. Iran has already taken its ballistic missile fleet off the negotiating table. To surrender it would leave the country defenseless. Trump and Israel demands that it's on the table. Nor will Iran negotiate with the sword of Damocles hanging over its head. At some point in the negotiation, it will demand the standing down of the US commander as proof of good faith before any progress or offer can be made on their uranium enrichment project. It's easy to see why. Trump has established a very bad record with Iran. In his first term as president, he pulled out of the JCPOA, the nuclear accord which remained the best and only path to monitoring Iran's uranium enrichment program. He launched a surprise attack last year, while Iran was talking to him. Iran is right to demand a gesture of good faith before talks continue. Trump must surely refuse. For him, Iran has to be seen to be folding under duress, as he now imagines NATO to have done over Greenland. With all this in mind, I would put the prospects of talks averting a war at about 1 in 10. This collision course is nothing new for the Islamic Republic, which has a historical memory deeper than anything floating around in Trump's head. It goes back at least 70 years. A year after the overthrow of Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, in a coup organized by MI6 and the CIA, in 1953, control over Iranian oil was given to the Seven Sisters. This was a name given to a consortium of the world's leading oil companies, the companies that were later to become BP, Mobil, Chevron, Exxon, Texaco, Shell, and Total. How similar this looks to Trump's Board of Peace. The Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, got only half of the profits from the 1954 agreement, and by 1973 even he was wearying. A new 20-year agreement was signed, giving the National Iranian Oil Company operational control. The Shah was setting the stage for nationalization, but all of this was too late, as a series of worker strikes preceded the revolution. Does anyone think Iran today will tamely revert to being controlled by today's equivalent of the Seven Sisters? Does anyone imagine that an Islamic revolution that has survived 8 years of war, which included gas attacks by Saddam Hussein, which has survived sanctions and assassinations, will fold like a pack of cards, as Venezuela did? Trump is just the latest configuration of a colonial bully that Iran is only too familiar with. Trump should read history before making what could prove to be the costliest foreign policy mistake of his presidency.
Anyone who watches this clip, they can clearly see that there's just something wrong in the mind of Muslims and Arabs. Even ones who are technically smart, they want more than anything for America and Israel to take it to the face. It's the most bizarre thing. Even when it's clear that America and Israel are the favored victor, they find ways to rationalize how the Arab world deserves or will win. At the end of the day, David Hearst is a complete moron, complete clown, and almost everything he said could never happen. Could never happen. And there's one reason why. Because there's a God, and God does not want America and Israel to lose to the terrorists of the Arab world. If and when there is a war between America and Iran, or if and when there is a war that places Iran against the rest of the world, you can be sure to take a look at this clip again and see how wrong David Hearst was on every front. At the end of the day, Israel and America have a long-standing history of being favored in God's eyes. They are both places that have overcome challenges and been victorious and have experienced prosperity and growth and success, whether it's par for the course or overcoming all the obstacles. At the end of the day, Iran has absolutely no choice but to lose if they go into any kind of battle in any way with the West, being America, or even against Israel, because eventually that will be a battle against the West. At the end of the day, any battle that Iran takes on, they need to know that they're fighting against God. They stand for terrorism, they stand for death, they stand for evil, they stand for everything that's wrong and that doesn't allow the world to go forward. And at the end of the day, they will not be victorious. At the end of the day, the world will see once again that America and those who are connected with Israel will succeed, and we will continue down the path of God's plan for world peace.